Greetings, brothers and sisters. So today, my family and I were getting hay for our cows. It's a big thing, a lot of work, like lots of bales of hay. And I woke up, I had a little headache, wasn't feeling great. And so I started making this video about Trevor Moore and CAA and the, Illuminati, whatever it is, right? Their weird structure of their buildings and so forth. And then stuff to do with Ellen and some other things. And I came home, we were eating lunch, we got the hay bales, and then we were going to unload them. And I turned on the TV, and this guy was given one of the most sanctimonious, greasy victim, like he's the victim, press conferences I've ever seen, and I've seen a lot of them. So I'm going to go with the first part of the video, and then I have commentary about his speech towards the end. So let's get to it here. Greetings, brothers and sisters. I want to talk a little bit more about Trevor Moore and the High Church of the Illuminati and the Creative Artists Agency, which its main headquarters is in Los Angeles. And I talked about this a little bit the other day. But just the motivation behind this, right? And so here's the entrance to the Creative Artists Agency. And there's a whole complex here, right, with a sort of a mall area, lawn area. And in there is over here the Bank of America. The Deutsche Bank is somewhere over here. Here's Deutsche Bank right next to the Creative Artists Industry, the Creative Artists Agency. And you can see there's a couple of, this is the Eye of Horus here, in front of the entrance of the building. And here is a pyramid with another eye, the back of the dollar bill. You got these two weird, like, eyes peering at you. It's almost like making a face here. And I've showed you the other way that this, when you look at this building from the front, I have a picture of it. I'll pull it in here. But you look at this building from the front, these two buildings look like they're horns on top of the building. Right. And so they put money into this. Of course, you have the as above, so below, two buildings facing each other, like the compass of the Freemasons, which is, a part of what the Illuminati is supposed to be. Now, why put money into this, right? Here's another Eye of Horus over here, where there's a, it's everywhere in this structure. They've put it into the architecture. And this is the number one talent agency for celebrities and athletes and people like that. And then you had Trevor Moore, who made this video, High Church of the Illuminati. It's 3 minutes and 22 seconds long, which is a shout out to the, and sometimes videos are just that long, but this is about the Illuminati. And so this is, a shout out to the Skull and Bones, all these secret societies. And you see you have this, this is where the Creative Artists Agency is, right over here. This is a building right here. And so this is where he's saying the headquarters of the Illuminati is. He goes in here. He meets with these two agents. And they tell him that he's got to go meet the Illuminati. And this guy says this.
Violate this oath, we're going to murder you and everyone that you love.
Got it.
So he's got to sign a blood oath, and if he doesn't sign the blood oath, they're going to murder him and everyone that he loves. This is being said in a comic way, but the whole idea of symbolism, and I've talked about how things are put out there as a joke, and then they're not really a joke.
You'll also need to pledge your soul to Baphomet.
He says, you need to pledge your soul to Baphomet. They have a little, goat structure over here. And so this is, it's something, right? It's not nothing now that he's died an untimely death of a unspecified accident. The rumor is that he fell off a balcony or something, which is highly suspicious. And here's a Creative Artists Agency. They have all this, they have all these levels of their what they represent, their brands and things like this, careers. It's a power broker in Hollywood, and within the various other entertainment fields. When you build a building like this, you could say, all right, there's, things that they put in symbolism and things they put in for people's benefit. But then there's the inner communication between, members of the group, right? People who are sort of in the know about these things. And this is a commitment to build these buildings, to put this in the landscape. I mean, this can be seen from Google Maps, right? Like, it's not being hidden. If you look at St. Peter's Square, there's an obelisk, an Egyptian obelisk, and I forget all the stuff in here, but the way that this is laid out here, the various this church here and all this stuff, is significant in terms of the structure. Just they're all Freemasons, and they're supposed to be worshiping Jesus, right? And then you have here's the Washington Monument, and you go over here. Here's the White House. There's the Ellipse, and then there's the President's Park, and the White House is right over here. And you have these obelisks all over the place. There's one in London. There's one in New York City. There's one in Henderson, Nevada, for some reason, right by the library I saw. And then there's people who use them. There's a Lincoln Memorial. And it's just the way they structured this architecture. I forget a lot of this stuff. I covered this before. George Washington was a Freemason, and there's all these like hidden symbols and the way that they put these things together. It's a way to move energy in like a feng shui type of way. And it's for their benefit. It's not something they've done so the public would find out about. It's done in secret, right? Then one of my viewers sent me this morning, which is interesting as well. Rock and roll isn't dead. It was just born with horns, and it has a devil's horn, emoji. Check out Machine Gun Kelly and Travis Barker's new tats at the link in bio. And it says born with horns. They both have born with horns tattooed on their arms. Just outstanding looking young men, right? Machine Gun Kelly's gone all sort of grunge rock when he here's a born with horns. Here's a bigger, you can see that, right? And of course he put out this song Rap Devil, which was like some sort of Eminem diss, and he has these devil horns he put up here back when he was a rapper. And he throws up the devil's horns consistently, and then Eminem had done it in this earlier pose with the Illuminati eye. And now he's done, now he looks like this because he's, I don't know, his name's Colton, right? So anyways, there's money and intention and effort to putting these symbols in places. Now, I don't really cover symbolism anymore because we're past that, right? We're past the time of symbolism. We're in the collapsing phase. And, I just don't care. Like, it just doesn't matter to me anymore. I don't need to know why. Like, I don't, they're never going to tell you. And it's just a rabbit hole of speculation and whatever it might be. But there is, this is significant, this structure here, all of these places, the obelisks they put in there, and they've done this for a reason. And it is, a part of just I've talked about obscurantism and just, which is the deception, right? There's deception in pretty much everything in our culture. It's built on deception. It has a foundation of lies and deception. One of my friends on Instagram sent me this. This is Ellen. For some reason she has one last season remaining.
2 decades of television.
2 decades of television. And then there was, remember, all the pranks that she did. Scaring people. That's what they want you to remember. She deceived people and scared them as much as she possibly could. She got Taylor Swift to fall on her knees. And that was in a bathroom, right?
4,000.
And then there's the devil's horns there, right? Who's that? Julia Roberts.
4,000 guests.
Come on. Oh.
Almost $500 million given away.
They've given away $500 million worth of stuff. That's what they're claiming. They gave away $500 million worth of stuff.
Countless lives changed.
They changed so many lives, giving away red cars.
We want to give each one of you a scholarship.
And one thankful host.
You've changed my life.
You've changed your lives.
Farewell season starts September 13th.
September 13th. It's on a Monday. It's not a Friday. So that's Ellen. And so there was one last interesting story here. The Colorado Rockies say fans shouted at a mascot, Dinger, didn't yell a racial slur at Miami Marlins Lewis Brinson. Lewis Brinson is a black person. And if you've heard this, it went around the internet. So there was an announcer. You could hear the mic of the announcer. There was some fan that was close to the media box. And this black athlete came up. And it sounded like some fan screamed the N-word at him twice. And the announcer said, that's uncalled for. I'm sorry you guys had to listen to that. That's not, So he apologized. And then people went ballistic. They wanted to know why other fans didn't call this guy out. And they, the internet blew up. And then in further investigation, they realized the guy was saying Dinger, who is this mascot, of course, with horns. Looks like he's a triceratops. Dinger is a name for a home run, right? So the guy hits a dinger, right? That's where they got the name. It's a poor choice of, in terms of what it could sound like. Nobody thought about that in the Colorado Rockies. But multiple players ended up apologizing. This guy, Adam Jones, former MLB player, I personally apologize for jumping to conclusions. I felt and many heard something vile and nasty. It's not the case, so I apologize to the fan and his family. Know when you're wrong and apologize. And so many people went after the fan, and then all the people sitting around him said he was trying to call the mascot over. The mascot was up there, in the nosebleed seats near the announcer's booth, and he wanted to get a picture with Dinger. And so it was very interesting to me. And I don't think anybody owes the fan an apology in the sense of jumping to conclusions, because it sounded like the N-word. I mean, that's even after I knew he was calling Dinger. Like I heard about this story. I turned on the news maybe at dinner or something. I was looking at SportsCenter. I saw it on ESPN, and they were covering this story. And I saw it after it already had sort of gone from internet outrage to oops, right? Like I saw it on the tail end of this thing. And what's more interesting to me, not about apologizing or people jumping to conclusions, is it sounded like that, but it wasn't that, right? And there was all this, it got millions of views and people were outraged and they were saying, why didn't the fans stop him? And, all these people were, all these different, negative and hostile and hateful interpretations, all this anger and hate came out at this fan and, I guess maybe white people in general, I don't know, just a lot of this stuff that's been going on lately anyway. And then it turned out to be just something that was misinterpreted. And it's what I say all the time here, because anybody who's on the internet, anybody who has a social media presence, but even before the internet, this is something that people have been doing forever, right? People try to run each other down. And when someone feels bad about themselves, they're consumed with failure and frustration and jealousy and anger and hatred and all these things, the negative conditions and, the feelings that go with it, resentment, all of these things. And when you feel happy and you're in a good mood, you can get completely contaminated by somebody who isn't. In fact, most of the time, people who are in a bad mood want everybody to feel the same way. That's why people, say hurtful and insulting things. It's because they feel like shit inside. and they're worthless piece of crap mostly, right? I mean, people who do it all the time. Like everybody does it a little bit. And, but when people feel bitterness and anger and hatred, they'll say whatever they can say to bring you down. It doesn't matter what it is. And so you have to learn to, in life, not let it affect you. These brilliant teachings of the heartfulness system, where the hatred that you have or the anger you have is your anger. You have an object of your anger, but the feelings you have are inside yourself. And you can get rid of those feelings, not feelings, emotions. Feelings are higher, emotions are lower. Feelings are love and compassion, and you feel those in your heart. And anger and negativity you feel in your gut, right? Your lower centers. And so when you feel anger and hatred, that's your anger and hatred, and you need to get rid of it. You need to cleanse it from your system, and you can do it using the heartfulness method to get rid of these things, which is a boon. It's something that I've done over the years, and I'm much happier and feel better inside, inside myself, right? But I grew up where there's a lot of name calling and, people talking smack to each other, right? Running each other down. It was part of the culture I grew up in, right? In the Northeast. And in my family, there was a lot of negativity. And I just, don't want to be around it anymore. I don't want to be pulled down. And I see it all the time. People are always trying to pull you down on the internet or in life in general. And so, the names that people call or whatever they do, there is an energy or a condition that goes with it. And that energy is to make you feel bad, right? And so this whole controversy was about a mistake where they thought this guy who just wanted, and, some grown-ass man who wanted a picture with a mascot, and maybe he had kids or something, who's to say, right? But he was just saying dinger, calling this mascot over. But it sounded like something else. And the way he was yelling it was really loud, right? I mean, it, sounded bad. And so then it generated all this hate and negative feelings over something that was just, ridiculous thing that was happening where some person wants a picture with a mascot, right? Like it's just stupid, and all this hatred and negativity and, the way the world is now, right? Everybody's like, super sensitive about all this stuff. And you think about all the negative energy that was generated over something that was a mistake when you could just move on, right? Even if the person was saying that, you could say, all right, that's about them. That's about them wanting to bring another person down based in, this case, racism, but it could be anything. Because people who are, filled with darkness and negativity, they want to spread their venom on other people. And you have to learn how to, not allow that to happen. So I like I was saying in the introduction, I was out with my family and we were getting hay bales for our cows. It was a hay day. And I was already editing the earlier part of this video, and I turned on TV and I saw this. I mean, this section coming up, I think I'm starting a little bit early here. But this sad sack, this pitiful excuse from a human being gave one of the greasiest speeches I've heard. I've heard a lot of greasy speeches. Let's get into it here.
Standard of living, putting more food on the table and clothes on their backs. And we led the nation in economic justice with that reform.
So first he's going to talk about all the great things he did.
We have managed every emergency Mother Nature could throw at us. Fires, floods, hurricanes, superstorms, and pandemics.
He's done a wonderful job. He was maybe the greatest person, the greatest governor of New York.
We balanced the state budget and we got it done on time, more than any other administration, because government should work and perform. Free college tuition for struggling families.
He was, look at all the things he's done. They whine about Trump bragging about all his accomplishments, but these guys all do the same thing. Biden does it, and so does this MNFer.
Nobody in this state will be denied their college dream because of their income. We have built new airports, rail, transit, roads all across this state faster and better than ever before.
Better, the greatest. It sounds just like Trump, right? We're the best team. We're the best out of the best. Good, best. Faster, better, super faster.
And more than any state in the nation, the most effective green economy program in the nation. We did more for Black and Latino families than any other administration. We did more for working families. We did more for our union brothers and sisters.
When he says we, he means him. Because the we isn't getting fired. It's just, he's the only one getting fired.
We did more to battle racism and anti-Semitism. Today, so much of the politics is just noise.
It's just noise. Just noise. It's just noise.
Just static.
Static and noise.
And that's why people tune it out.
Yeah, like your brother on TV and you on TV, and we don't trust you anymore. We don't like you. You know, no one believes in you.
What matters is actually improving people's lives.
That's what matters. That's how you tell whether you've done a good job or not.
And that's what you did. You made this state a better state.
It's a better state because of you. You did it, and you New Yorkers did that. That's why everyone's leaving your state. Like, people are leaving your state in droves.
For the generations that follow. And that is undeniable, inarguable, and true, even in these ugly, crazy times. I thank Speaker Carl Heastie and Leader Andrea Stewart-Cousins for their leadership.
He's got to thank some people. They don't want their names really mentioned by him because he's toxic.
And let me say this on a personal note. In many ways,
this is what I tuned into, I think.
I see the world through the eyes of my daughters, Cara, Mariah, and Michaela. They are 26 and 26, twins, and 23. And I have lived this experience with and through them. I have sat on the couch with them, hearing the ugly accusations for weeks. I have seen the look in their eyes and the expression on their faces. And it hurt.
You greasy M&F'er. I mean, this is just pathetic. Let's listen to it again. Let's go. YouTube TV has a couple of go back 10 seconds. But that was so greasy. You poor little baby. You victim, you, right? These false accusations that he had to watch it. He sat on the couch with his daughters, all sitting there, two 23-year-olds and a 26-year-old, twins and a 26-year-old. And he sat there with them, and he looked over as they were watching. He saw the looks on their faces as they saw these false accusations. And he just, you know, he was hurt by it. Not for him personally, because he could have taken it, but how it affected his poor daughters. I mean, this was one greasy M&F right here. He, you know, did a Trump-like laundry list of all the great things that he's done, Trump bragging list, that the left media that loved him, loved this guy, used to go after Trump for listing his accomplishments all the time. He does that, talks about what a great governor he was, and then he says, my poor daughters, and this fall, you know.
I see the world through the eyes of my daughters, Cara, Mariah, and Michaela. They are 26 and 26, twins, and 23. And I have lived this experience with and through them. I have sat on the couch with them, hearing the ugly accusations for weeks. I have seen the look in their eyes and the expression on their faces. And it hurt. I want my 3 jewels to know this.
I think it was 2 jewels. You got 3 jewels? He's got 3 family jewels.
My greatest goal is for them to have a better future than the generations of women before them.
He's all about women and treating women with respect.
It is still in many ways a man's world. It always has been. We have sexism that is culturalized and institutionalized. My daughters have more talent and natural gifts than I ever had.
They have more talent and natural gifts. They're just better than him in every possible way. Too bad he's contaminated the Cuomo name. Going to take down his brother too, right? He brought shame upon their family. He brought shame upon the dojo. This is wonderful. He's all about the woman. And these girls have more talent than he ever had. And he wants them to succeed.
I want to make sure that society allows them to fly as high as their wings will carry them.
They got wings and they're going to fly as high as they can.
There should be no assumptions, no stereotypes, no limitations. I want them to know from the bottom of my heart that I never did and I never would intentionally disrespect a woman or treat any woman differently than I would want them treated.
So why are you quitting then? You saying that this is fake news? You saying that none of these things are real? You're denying all these accusations? Are you saying all that? And that just, why are you quitting then? Why are you quitter? Why you're saying you're being wrongly fired after you were the world's greatest governor, and that you were doing good work, and that's what's important, and you're just quitting like that? If you're saying nothing, you did nothing wrong, and you're just quitting, like you're just quitting. You're just quitting, even though under false accusations.
And that is the God's honest truth.
Is it though?
Your dad made mistakes, and he apologized, and he learned from it. And that's what life is all about.
This sad sack, depressed MNF ghoul right here. Look at that ghoulish MNFer. I remember my dad, because, my last name being Romano, which is Sicilian, my grandfather, my paternal grandfather was Sicilian. So I'm 1/4 Sicilian, and my dad was half Italian, half Albanian, and they share similar, I don't know what the Albanians speak, but I just, my grandfather and my grandmother, I couldn't tell the difference between their accents. Let's just put it that way. I couldn't understand either one of them. But my dad was very proud and happy because my family comes from New Jersey, right? Which is just a part, where they were was basically a part of New York City. And so when Cuomo, his father, Mario Cuomo, was elected governor, it was a big deal to my dad and Italian people, right? Because Italians were considered low, like the Irish and the Italians were very, I'm part Irish, my mom's Irish, came in and they were considered like immigrants are considered now, right? They weren't considered on the same level as the people, the white people, whatever it was, right? They weren't considered WASP, right? And so it took a long time for them to be, actualized. And when Mario Cuomo was elected, my dad thought it was a big deal. I didn't know anything about it. But I would be predisposed to like the Cuomos, right? But I don't. Like I know a lot of guys like this, and growing up in Connecticut and, Massachusetts and New Jersey, there's lots of Cuomos, and they're really unpleasant, right? I just, they're really unlikable. And this guy is a particular ghoul. I mean, he's the worst of the two Cuomos in terms of just listening to him talk. Is heavy, emotionally manipulative. I mean, just the way, just so greasy.
And I know the political process is flawed, and I understand their cynicism and distrust and disappointment now. But
you were just a gem of a human being, a jewel. You were a jewel.
But don't give it up, because government is still the best vehicle for making positive social change.
Okay, I just, we get the gist. You're innocent. You're a wonderful governor. This hurt your daughter's feelings, and we should all, you're the victim, right? and you're resigning even though you didn't intentionally do anything wrong, but you made mistakes, which you apologize for. We get it. You're a piece of shit, right? You're a lying piece of shit. But the big problem here is don't let Dems bury Cuomo's nursing home horrors by ousting him only for sex charges. And that's the real crime here. Like what he did to those women was, bad and, horrible thing. Here it is in Channel 11 out of New York. Cuomo's handling of COVID in nursing homes will be part of impeachment probe. And so I don't know if that's going to happen because he's now resigned. But what happened there was there was 9,000 deaths, nursing home deaths, when he made the unbelievable, callous and horrific decision to put COVID-infected people that were still contagious in nursing homes with elderly people. And the results of that were that he had more deaths than anybody. Like this is, you see here, New York has 55,000 deaths with only 2 million cases. I mean, not only, but only compared to California that has 10,000 more deaths, but twice as many cases. In terms of case to death ratio, New York is the worst. And it's because of Cuomo's decisions. Was the ventilators and the nursing home decisions. Cuomo was a frickin' disaster. And they don't want to investigate that. Like, they don't want this to be the part of the story. They want this to be about him being a creep, a sex offender or whatever, and just disappear him and forget about him. And the hero they made him out to be, the mainstream media and everybody else, how he was so much better than Trump and how he was this wonderful person, right, this wonderful governor. And he had these daily narcissistic press conferences where he just showed off how great a leader he was. And he was the worst. He was the worst governor. He had the worst state. People are leaving the city and the state in droves because it's a nightmare to live there. It's a frickin' disaster. And look at this. This is the face of a ghoul here, right? Just this ghoulish MNFer.
Lastly, I want to remind all New Yorkers of an important lesson, and one that I will carry with me for the rest of my life. And that's what you New Yorkers did in battling COVID.
First of all, he didn't do a good job. I mean, he's trying to make it sound like he's doing a good job on COVID. And second, how is this a lesson? How is this a lesson you'll carry for the rest of your life?
The enemy landed in New York State. COVID launched the attack here. It came on planes from Europe.
Wait, COVID launched an attack? There was intention there? There was an act of war by COVID itself?
And we had no idea.
Well, you had an idea to put sick people in with the most vulnerable population, elderly people, the ones who are most vulnerable to COVID. In fact, the only ones that really had a high risk of dying. And you took sick, contagious people and put them in with the most vulnerable population. So you had some sort of an idea.
It was an ambush. And it was up to New Yorkers to fight back.
You got ambushed by COVID. Look at that, dude. Look at those lines.
Were on our own. And it was war. Nurses, doctors, essential workers became our frontline heroes.
And you were the leader of those heroes. You were like the general.
Hospitals became the battlegrounds.
And nursing homes.
Streets were still, and sirens filled the city's silence. Trailers carried the bodies of our fallen brothers and sisters.
Sir, have you no shame, sir? No shame at all.
But you refused to give up, and you fought back, and you won.
There's nothing worse than when somebody's praising you, but they're really just praising themselves. Or they're trying to get it like you're in it together. Like, it's me and you guys. Remember we did that thing with COVID. Now they're trying to get rid of me, and I got to quit. But don't forget, like, how great we were as a, it's horrible, right? He's just, these guys will never admit it unless they have to. They never confess. They never apologize unless they have to. And then it's even worse because it's insincere, and they do it in a way like they're still trying to make themselves look good. You were a failure, dude. You're just a bad person. Just bad character qualities. Just his energy, his affect, and his ghoulishness, just all of it.
Going from the highest infection rate in the nation to one of the lowest. No one thought we could do it, but you did it. You led the nation, and you showed the way forward. And how you did it is what's most important.
How did they do it?
You did it together.
Together you did it.
Not as black New Yorkers or white New Yorkers, not as LGBTQ New Yorkers or straight New Yorkers or Democrats or Republicans or upstate or downstate or Jewish, Muslim, Protestant or Catholic New Yorkers, but as one community.
One team.
One family.
One family is a family, capiche?
Family of New York. You overcame the naysayers and the haters and the fear.
Who was the haters? What kind of haters were there?
And the division, and you unified, and you rose, and you overcame. And
it was great, and he was the leader.
And you saved lives.
You saved lives for God's sakes.
And that was powerful in its effect. It was beautiful to see, and it was an honor to lead.
It was just an overall honor.
Please remember that lesson. Hold it dear and hold it up high for this nation to see, because it is New York State at her finest.
Can you believe this, MNF, right? First of all, it's not a lesson. That isn't a lesson. What lesson? That everyone could work together and get along despite their peripheral differences? Well, I don't know. Maybe that happened, but it wasn't a success story. New York had the highest case to death ratio, right? I mean, I already went through that. And this guy's leaving in disgrace. He's disgraced. He was a hero. They were talking about him being president. People were saying he should replace Joe Biden as the candidate. They want him to run instead of Joe Biden. They were hoping that Joe Biden was declared. I mean, there's Democrats saying this. They want him to be the next president. And he's leaving in complete disgrace. He's ghoulish and greasy, and he's just got this heavy, sanctimonious and the victim consciousness here. And he's trying to give this inspirational talk to New Yorkers, like, hey, you're leaving in disgrace, bro. And you're not even leaving for the worst reason, which was the nursing home thing. But it was just all of it, right? The self-promotion, the books he wrote. And then he had a cover-up where they intentionally withheld death numbers of COVID from the investigators. So he had all these things, really greasy, really, just a bad person. Just, when he's talking, you just want to turn it off, right? Stop. His self-serving press conferences. I got to go make dinner, so... I had maybe more I was going to say about the other things that I covered earlier. Try to weave them all together like I do at the end. But it's just every day the drumbeat of a failed system that has materiality at its base, that cuts you away from God, disconnects you from your family and what's natural to be a human being, and just be indulgent in these, it's an egocentric system, and you got all these big egos, all these narcissists, all these people running the system. Everyone's much more selfish and narcissistic than they would be in a healthy, natural, godly-based system, like was what I talk about all the time with heartfulness meditation, connecting to God internally in a deep way and having a relationship with God, and then holding yourself to a higher standard than these, MNFers. Right? Only spirituality will save this world. It's Paul Romano. Definitely reporting from the Apocalypse and the Ascension. Everyone have a blessed day. and be grateful.